So maybe the biggest thing to come out of the mobile market is the launch of the long-awaited Apple Arcade service. This is Apple's $5 per month subscription service exclusively on iOS, where you get to access, they said 100 games. I don't think there's quite 100 games on there yet, but they are adding a couple more games every day, every other day. So very quickly here, we're going to be at 100 games. There's, I think, 70 to 80 right now. And I've played maybe like less than 10 of those, and all of them have been good, more or less. So there's definitely a lot that I think that people are going to be able to dig in here and find and talk about. I guess big picture, like I said, it's a $5 service. You can get the first month free. I feel like anybody who has an iPhone should just do the first month, see if there's anything in there that you like, especially now that controller support is a thing. Beyond that, I think that I might do at least one more month because there's a game that I'm playing right now that I really like and that I would like to finish if I don't finish it before the month is up. But I could see
What
myself.
kind of games are there?
So that's what I was going to get to next. So there's all kinds of games, basically, like any kind of genre you could imagine, basically, is represented here. Some of the games are going to be made by small indie teams that you've never heard of before. There are a couple of games, like there's a Rayman game on there. It's an auto runner, which I don't really care much for, but it is a Rayman game, so people that are into Rayman
Right.
will probably enjoy that. There's a new Shantae game on there, and it's just the same game that's going to be coming to other platforms sometime later this year, early next year, just on this. And again, since there's controller support, you can just play it with a controller and never have to worry about touch controls, and it feels like the same game. The Oceanhorn 2 is on there. That's like a Zelda-like game. The first one originally came out on iOS. It hit, Vita and Switch after that. I know people really, really like that game as, like a sort of smaller team Zelda. So the sequel is on there exclusively right now. That's a lot of fun.
Right.
There's a Sonic racing game, which is funny considering Mario Kart Tour problems. It plays pretty similarly to Mario Kart Tour, honestly. The cart moves by itself and you just swipe to steer. But there's also like other small weird games that I think are sort of really interesting. The one that I like the most right now is this game called What the Golf, and it's a golfing game, air quotes golfing game, that is really like a sort of physics puzzle game that's like based around like golf as a concept, where I'm just trying to I don't want to spoil everything because there's like so much in this game, and it's kind of long too. Like I've played like maybe 3 or 4 hours of it, and it gives you like a timer, like not a timer, like a percentage amount of how much of the game you played, and it says I'm at like 45% of the way through the game. So like there's a lot of content in this thing, but basically so there'll be some levels where the game starts off and and it looks like it's golf, and you have to just hit the ball into the hole, and that's it. And then the next level, you go to hit the ball, and instead of the ball flying away, your golf club flies, and now you have to get your golf club to hit the flag to beat the level. And then later in the game, there's levels where you have to knock down all the trees on the course instead of trying to get into the hole at all. And then there's levels where you play as the hole, and the goal of the game is to like catch a ball that's like running around elsewhere on the green. And then like after you like beat this sort of tutorial levels, suddenly you're in this like golf research laboratory, and you have to like hit a golf ball. You play as a golf ball that you hit around to find different levels, and they eventually start this part. I'm not going to spoil what they do, but eventually they start like having themes where every level or group of levels is like a riff on some other popular game genre, but like, and even specific games in some instances, but like as if
What's
it were
this
a golf
game called?
game. It's called What the Golf.
So What the Golf?
Yes. I do think it's going to be coming to Switch and Steam later this year, but it's especially since it's a free trial. Like this is like the game that I would recommend the most. As absurd and ridiculous as it sounds, it is so much fun. And again, since the levels are like so short, it's like the perfect kind of game that you can just pick up, play a level, and then be done with it.
Right.
So that one's probably the one that I have the highest recommendation for. I could keep going on and on and on and on, but like I said, there's so much in it that I don't want to spoil. But just try it out. You'll know like within 2 minutes whether or not it's your kind of game because that's how quick it is.
Right.
Another similar kind of game in the fact that it's just like a sort of silly fun riff on something. There's a game called Cricket Through the Ages, which starts off as if it's like a playable documentary about the history of cricket, with like silly physics involved. So like you tap one side of the screen to like swing your cricket bat or like to throw the ball, but like your character's wobbling around the whole time, and like actually a major portion of the game is like trying to throw the ball to kill your opponent rather than having them hit the ball back. And then like once you beat that sort of like fake documentary mode that like literally starts off like with the sort of British narrator being like, in prehistoric times they invented cricket. So you're like cavemen playing cricket, and then eventually goes through like all of human history. After you beat that mode, you unlock like other modes where you'll be like playing soccer as if it were cricket. So again, sort of like a silly physics kind of game. That's a lot of fun. There's also Exit the Gungeon. So anybody ever played Enter the Gungeon might recognize this one. It's like it's a spin-off of that game. And the main difference is, have you ever played Enter the Gungeon?
No.
No? So Enter the Gungeon is like a top-down roguelike where you go through these different like dungeon floors, and like the whole idea is that that you just sort of collecting guns and you have to shoot your way through these things. But like it gets kind of silly because some of the guns, like there's one that shoots snowballs, and all the enemies that you fight are also like bullets, that shoot bullets at you. It sounds way weirder than it actually is. But again, since it's a roguelike, like what you get is random, like every level. So this game instead is like a 2D roguelike where you're basically like riding an elevator and you have like waves of enemies that come at you, and the goal is for you to like survive through each wave, kill each boss, and exit the gungeon. It's a lot of fun. That's also another game that like really nails its touch controls. You can play it with a controller, and you can, when you use the controller, it kind of plays almost identically to the original Enter the Gungeon. But the touch controls are just like perfect in this game. The way they have you use like both sides of the screen. I think everybody else should like take note of how well the touch controls work in this game.
Right.
One last one, I guess, that I can like really shout out. This one I know, I think is like the only game that I know of that I think launched on other platforms at the same time. But Sayonara Wild Hearts is, I guess it's basically a rhythm game for lack of a better explanation, but it's like a sort of adventure rhythm game. So you play as this character who rides a motorcycle, and you're like going through these cities, and you have to sort of move to like avoid traffic, and you're collecting items, and then like you'll chase down bosses and try to like fight them, on your motorcycle. But like there's this fun music playing the whole time, and it's not like a rhythm game in the sense that like you have to follow the beat to do things, but like if you do get in sync with the beat, you'll find it's a lot easier to navigate around the world because it moves pretty fast. That's a really fun game, again, to just like throw on headphones and just chill out with for a couple minutes.
Right.
So yeah, that's Apple Arcade. Just a couple of games. Like I said, there's close to 100 of them. At this point, there's gonna be more. So like I said, I think it's something that people should just try out, because
Are these games that you have to buy on the marketplace if you don't have the subscription, or is it like exclusive?
you can only play them through Apple Arcade. So none of these games are available on the App Store outside of Apple Arcade.
Interesting.
So yeah, if you want to play any of these games, you gotta subscribe to it. And like I mentioned, some of the games are coming to other platforms later. Like I said, Sayonara Wild Hearts, I think, is available on other platforms right now, even.
Right.
And Shantae, I know, is coming later. What the Golf's website says it's coming later. You know, but as far as being on iOS, they're only available through the arcade. And since you can try a month for free, I think it's worth a shot. You know, you might find something that you really love. I'm sure there's stuff out there that I haven't even mentioned. I know there's like there's a game, I think it's called Bleak Sword, I think, that people have described as like a sort of, you know, iOS Dark Souls kind of game. There's like adventure games that you can do, like sort of like visual novel or like point and click games. There's a skateboarding game that I heard is pretty good. You know, there's just like basically anything you could imagine. And like I said, I don't know where it's going to go in the future. I don't know how sustainable this kind of model is. You know, at the same time this came out, Mario Kart Tour came out with a $5 like subscription pass just to itself, and people were like, "Ha, why would you pay to do that when you can pay $5 for 100 games in Apple Arcade?" You know, so I don't know how quickly this is going to break the mobile market for Apple entirely in terms of like microtransactions and other games, because I don't think I mentioned this, but like none of these games have microtransactions. Like that's sort of the whole point, is that you pay for the subscription, and all of these games are complete games, and you don't have to buy anything else once you're in there to play them. You can just play them as they are, and that's the whole game. You know?
Right.
Which is, I mean, this sounds like such a novel concept, but on a mobile, as we've been discussing, you know, microtransactions are the norm.
Yeah.
So it does feel nice
For
to
sure.
not have to even think about that necessarily when you're going through these.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's really it. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this clip of the Brotherly Love Gaming Show. Spence, what you think of that clip?
It's a pretty good clip.
Pretty good clip. Yeah, if you want to see more clips just like that one, you can find them here on YouTube, or you can listen to the full audio version of the show on iTunes. Thanks for hanging out.